Journalism. It is the backbone of our democracy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of the Game Changers podcast. My name is Quinn Sessions, and it's a privilege and pleasure to be here with you, as usual. My next guest is a young man who is a well known media personality and a former journalist. Today, he will tell us about journalism in the modern age. His name is Kherim Nelson, and this is our amazing conversation. Yo, Karim, how you doing, man?
I'm doing okay, man. Happy to be on the podcast. Obviously, it's been a long time coming. We've been trying to set it up, but I'm happy to have a conversation with you, and hopefully, it can be a productive one.
For sure, for sure, for sure. Yes, it has been a long time coming, and I'm very interested in where this conversation will go, man. It's knowing you as a person. I've always enjoyed our conversations, and I believe that it will be an interesting one going forward. So I'm happy to have you on.
For
All
sure,
right,
for
bro.
sure.
So let's start off with some introductions. Some of my viewers might not know you. So let's just introduce yourself. Tell
Right.
the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, to start off, I am, Kherim Nelson. Some may know that name from, media or journalism. I
Right.
think that's where my name really started to, catch fire and people know of me. But as of now, I am the communications officer for Export St. Lucia. So I'm basically responsible in charge, in a sense of promoting the work we do there in terms of forwarding the national export agenda. So that's what I primarily do now. Um, but I'm just a young guy from Shozel. I grew up in Shozel and then I migrated to Castries a few years ago. I attended the Shozel Secondary School, where, I really developed as a person. I joined the youth movement. I was part of the Students' Council. I rose to the ranks of the National Students' Council. And then, I came to after that, I went to SAFA. I had a few stints on the NYC and some committees, some different capacities with the whole youth development space as well. And then from there, I found myself in media, and then I've kind of been in that circle ever since 2021, that is. So that's my life in a short nutshell.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now you said media. Now the way we know each other is because our paths crossed and we worked at Hot Seven together. Um, I'm very interested in how you became a journalist, though. How did you fall into, quote unquote, fall into that role as a journalist?
Well, it was an accident. Well, not an accident, but
Interesting.
it's not something that I it's not something that I mapped
Okay.
out. To be honest with you, when I finished SARCC probably at the worst time you could finish SARCC. That was, the onset of COVID in 2020, and that was a time where I'm graduating, I need a job, and people are getting laid off and these sort of things. So that was a bit of an easy period for
Hmm.
me. But luckily, I was able to get a job down south, Ojo, doing real estate. I was sort of like a middleman between, um, buyers and persons looking for a real estate agent. Um, I quickly found out that wasn't for me. About 6 or 7 months in, I realized, yeah, that's not my vibe. So then I came back to the north. And I was just home. I was like, all right, whatever comes, comes. Let me just, try and not spend as much money as possible. But then I responded to a Hot FM ad. I was just like, you know what? I'm not doing anything. Might as well just respond to the ad. And then I responded to it. And that's how I found myself in media. And I think I was supposed to be an announcer at first when they first started conversations with me, but I think the newsroom was missing someone at that point. So it kind of provided the perfect opportunity, I guess, for me to become, a journalist, a reporter, and that's how I really got started in media.
Interesting, interesting. So I'm seeing that it was a series of, I don't want to say accidents, but a series of events
Yeah.
that kind of found you into a position that you didn't expect to be in, to on the onset.
No, I didn't expect it at all. And even going into it, you don't even know what to expect. Because, I mean, all of us grew up listening to news, you hear the names Alex Bousquet, Don
Yeah.
Nicholas, Cecile
Mhm.
Acton, but you'd never know what goes into it. you kind of just think, oh, them people just gonna get stories, whatever. But then you get into the framework, and then you're like, oh,
Y-
this is how it
Yeah.
functions. This is how it happens, and it's really really eye opening, I would say.
Interesting that you
Yeah.
said that. I want to ask a follow up then. What was the most eye opening thing that you encountered when you just entered the job? What was really a culture shock, I could say, for you when you just entered the media?
How deep we want to get into the
Well, as deep
how
as you
deep we
want to
want to get
go.
into the rabbit hole. I think I think one of the major shocks for me is realizing the amount of output you actually have to do in a given day. I think that was one of the bigger shocks in terms of um, you have to get the interviews, you have to write them, you have to record them, and you also have to make sure that
Yeah.
they're up to a certain standard whereby, um, you don't get the facts wrong. You make sure you dot all your I's, you cross all your T's, and you make sure that you're putting out a report you're happy with. And I think one of the most unfortunate things with that line of work is sometimes you're not able to give every report the kind of
Yep.
attention that it kind of it deserves. But I think that was the biggest thing to adapt to, and I think it was the biggest kind of shock to me. Like, oh, all of this happens in the span
Right.
of less than 8 hours, really. So, and then I mean, you even have less time to write. You probably have what, 3.5 hours max to write, and then it's like, oh, wow, this is a bit different than what I may have thought when I was watching on my TV screen.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And you know what really shocked me as well is that, the clips are usually about 30 seconds to a minute. That is the clips from your interview. And sometimes the interview
Mhm.
is a long interview, or maybe you attend a press conference that was going on for hours, and you have to find like a minute from
Yeah.
that to put out in a story. It was shocking to me, one, and it was a little bit difficult when I just started. But then I guess you develop the air for it. I guess it's kind of like a musician. You can pick out certain things in a conversation and know, okay, this would make a perfect clip. Was it similar for you as well?
Yeah, that was difficult for me, especially in the start. And some people see the level I got to that I was when I left and how I developed. But let me tell you, when I started, I was terrible. I was terrible. Like I don't need to lie to you. I used to spend. I remember my first day or my second day, and I think the new people coming in, they have to adapt a lot quicker. When I just came in, I
Wow.
couldn't write a lead. And for those who don't know, a lead is just maybe like a summary of
Yeah.
your
What the anchor
story,
reads,
your report.
basically.
Summing out, yeah, basically what the answer is. So I remember staying there and I was working with there was someone to the right of me, the senior reporter at the time, Leisha Charles, big up Leisha, if he ends up watching. And I would just see her writing these leads so quickly. And I'm like, boy, are you even doing that? And it's like she's not even listening to like the whole recording or the whole clip, the whole interview. She's writing a lead, and I'm like, come on, man. So that was difficult for me in the start too, but it's sort of something like once you get the hang of it, it kind of just
Yep.
comes naturally. Sometimes you're sitting in an interview. Sometimes you don't even listen. I didn't say you don't listen, but it
Yeah.
becomes background noise, and then someone says that one thing, and then you're
Yes,
like,
for
oh
sure.
yes, that's my clip. And then you also develop a skill of really knowing how to write your report in a way which gives the clip more context. Because sometimes, as you said, there are certain people who interview. I don't want to
Right.
give names, but sometimes they're very long-winded. They take some time to get to the point, and then you also struggle with not wanting to
Yep.
misrepresent what they're trying to say. But then you kind of learn how to frame your words better and to lead into a better clip, a better 30-second clip to put what they said into context. And but that comes with time, and that comes. But once you get it, you get it, and it's something that never really quite leaves you after that. And then you kind of wonder like, how did you struggle with it in the beginning? But once you get it, that's how it goes. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, in the beginning, you spoke about growing up in Shozel. Now I know that that community
Mhm.
means a lot to you as an individual. You're my friend, and I know that that place really means a lot to you. But in terms of your professionalism, how do
Yeah.
you think it informed you becoming a professional? I'm growing up in that community.
I think growing up in Choiseul, has kind of blessed me in a lot of different ways. Just because I think it's maybe one of the communities which still really resonates the whole essence of being a community. And I will say, even when I got into the reporting and journalism field, the support was just like everyone was like, "Yay, I'm hearing you. Continue, you're doing a good job." This and that. And that was really uplifting. But for the professionalism side, I grew up I had very humble beginnings. My mother was a teacher. My grandmother is a stickler for discipline and these sort of things. But they always told me, no matter if you disagree with someone, no matter if you don't see something on the same wavelength as someone. Just try to respect where
Yep.
they're coming from, respect authority. You might disagree with their stances, you might disagree with policy positions, you might disagree with a lot of things, but still know to respect them, keep yourself upright, do everything you do it with a certain degree of
Mhm.
professionalism, and that really kind of helped me navigate the world of work before even having any experience in the world of work, and that has enabled me to adapt to various different situations, different settings, and it's
For
been
sure, for
beneficial.
sure. Yeah, and I like how you spoke about that respect factor, especially in the work that we do, because I mean, I always say like today
Yes.
might go to cabinet and speak to the prime minister, and then right after that I might have an interview with a vendor or somebody, that society might not see
Mm.
in a certain light, and you have to treat both of these people with the same level of respect because what they have to say is as
For
valuable
sure.
in that context. You agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I would just say, like, even from the audience point of view, I think it's something that we as an audience need to be wary of as well, because sometimes you do a story with a vendor or a report with a vendor, and somebody be like, "Oh,
Mhm.
what man did
Right.
that person let's say, no, that person and all that thing." But then you would do it with, I guess, someone of a different stature or in a different hierarchy or something, and they would listen to that report a bit more differently. They would give it more credence, etc. But you have to know that essentially what we do as journalists is kind of asking the questions that are in the best interest of the public or in the interest of the public. So when a member of the public actually comes out and speaks out, I think we need to respect it. I think we need to value it, and I think sometimes we need to listen to it as well. And I know sometimes we get caught up in maybe they don't
Hmm.
express it the best, maybe they're not as eloquent as other people, but you need to look beyond that and garner the essence of what that person is trying to communicate to
For
you.
sure. For sure. That's well said, and I agree with that 100%. Now, you kind of tapped into it a little bit earlier on, but I know that everybody's writing style or everybody's creative process when writing is a bit
Mm.
different. What is your creative process like?
Um, I think my creative process kind of evolved over time. I think when I just began, I had to listen to the
Right.
whole interview. And that can be
Mm-hmm.
very time consuming. I would listen to the whole interview and then I would try to summarize it. But then from then, as I said, you kind of just pick up a skill. It's really weird. You have to experience it to really understand what happens. You're sitting in an interview, you're hearing what the person's saying, and then they just say something, and you're like, that's it. That's what I'm running with. That's going to be the story.
Mm-hmm.
That's my angle. And then you kind of almost already start thinking of ways to bring in the story, whether you link it to an incident that occurred, or whether you link it to some greater societal issue or something. And that really became my process. And also, I began writing in a way where I took myself out of being the reporter. And I became like the audience. Like, what would the audience
Mm-hmm.
want to hear? Like, how would the audience feel if I started the report this particular way? And that really helped me as well. And then the more and more you get into it, it's almost like, well, for me, I don't know if you can speak to it as well. You kind of formulate
Yep.
templates in your head, um, like subconsciously. So you're doing a political story and then you will kind of have a template for, depending on what they're speaking about, you have a template for that in your head. You have a societal problem, you kind of develop a template in your head and you're able to
Mm-hmm.
write about it. Crime, I mean, crime may vary maybe because of the circumstances surrounding, but you kind of still have these ideas that float in your head when those things arise. And that's just been my process. But I think the biggest thing for me in just adapting over time is just really put bringing forth my reports in a way that whereby people would want to listen to it, people would want to hear it. And then if you look at some of my reports that have done well, they're very diverse. It's not to say one type of story did
Right.
well and others did not do well. They're very, very
Mhm.
diverse. And then sometimes ones I don't even think are really going to resonate in the public, they do. But that's just the way it is.
For sure. For sure, for sure. Now I'm just listening to you and I'm just thinking to myself, I mean, both of us may identify as introverts. And I was just thinking,
Right.
in terms of the challenges that you face in your media career, like many people are afraid of the camera. I mean, we know that when we go out to conduct interviews, people are afraid of the camera or afraid of the mic, even, right? As an introvert, what type of challenges did you face when you entered the media?
Well, I never really had a fear of the camera. That never really happened to me. And although I have been an introvert, I've also been that guy in school that they was always called upon to do
Right,
speeches, to do this,
right.
to do that. So it was just kind of an advanced level of that, like, oh boy, now I have to do this. But the biggest thing for me just being I guess let's say a bit more introverted. It's sometimes going up to the people and getting a story or
Mhm.
calling them and then you feel like you're inconveniencing someone, you feel like you're
Right, right.
bothering someone. And sometimes, depending on the story you're trying to tell, you might even feel like a beggar. You might be like, boy, I have to be calling this person and I have to be doing that.
Right.
So for me, sometimes after first call, second call, I feel like, boy, I'm not calling you a third time. You understand me? Or sometimes you're doing a public story, like let's say a Vox style, and for those who may not know what a Vox is, just like a public interview, and then having to go up to people and ask them and these sort of things. That was a challenge. But again, over time, you
Yeah,
kind of adapt.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, there is no space for shyness in this media job at
Yeah,
all. You know,
none, none at all. None
you
at
have to
all.
shake it off. You have to talk. You don't know who you're going to be speaking to on the day. And also, I think it's important. Like sometimes we interview very important people, and it can feel intimidating. At
Mm-hmm.
least for me, it can feel intimidating. But you have to think of this individual as another human being, just another person. And if you think of them as just as another person, then you can understand. Okay, how to relate to them and then understand their context a little bit better
Right.
and be able to do your job better, because I think if you do not see them as just another person or see them as somebody who you just having a conversation with, it can become very intimidating, particularly as introverts. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it also depends on who you're interviewing, because sometimes there's some people you would think maybe they're going to be the hardest interview ever, and then you get to them and they make it
Right.
so easy, they make it so comfortable, and then you self kind
Mm,
of shocked like that. Okay, this went so easily. What was I stressing about? I know sometimes it's a bit more difficult. Um, but it's again, it's
mhm.
just having to understand that, understanding the little intricacies and just knowing how to navigate through them.
For sure. For sure. All right, bro. So we kind of established, your career thus far. But
Yeah.
there was a moment in particular in your career, I think is probably one of the highlights. You were nominated for Youth Media Work of the Year. That was last year, 2023. Um,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
first of all, did you expect that to happen? And secondly, what was that experience like? Being at Youth Awards, being nominated for such a prestigious
Right.
award.
Yeah. So although it was I think Youth in Media or well Youth Awards 2023, it looked at I think the years 2022 and 2021 if
Right.
I'm not mistaken, because I don't think there was National Youth Awards for that year. But for me it was very eye-opening in a sense that when I went about doing my work, I never really looked at it like I'm doing something so, you know, so like
You're right.
amazing, like just to me. I mean, you'd hear people, kind of give you, your fans, well, not your fans,
Yeah,
but your
right. Yeah.
praise. Sometimes you'd see the numbers, you'd see whatever. But I never really took that as nothing. I just felt like, you know what, and just from who it was coming too. I think some of the people the praise came from, just people that would support me no matter what I do, like no matter what I do in life to support me. So to be nominated for that award, it kind of really, um, kind of crystallized all my
Mm-hmm.
hard work, because as you would know, Queen, we go for a lot,
Yes.
and sometimes people don't really understand what happens within
Nope.
your work day, and your day
Nope.
never really stops. You might
Yes.
clock out, you might leave work, but it never stops. So for that moment to, although I didn't win at the time, but I mean, congrats to
Mm-hmm.
Jenny Gonzalez, with someone I worked with when I just came in, and she helped me in my formative years in
Mm-hmm.
media as well. So congrats to her. But it was just to be there at that ceremony, to be recognized, and people, essentially telling me how well I'm doing. It was good to experience, and it's something I think I needed at the time, because when you're doing journalism or media, you might not hear good job from the persons you
Yeah.
want to hear
Yeah.
good
It's
job
true.
from, or it might not always be recognized by
Mm-hmm.
certain people. So, to have kind of national
Mm-hmm.
recognition of what I did was really good to experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. I congratulate you for that nomination. I mean, it's a big thing. It might not, seem as a big thing, maybe for you from a that perspective,
Yeah,
but it is a big thing, and I know exactly where you're coming from when you speak about the appreciation, and sometimes people don't understand what we go through on a typical day. For some people that might be a crazy
they
day for
don't.
them, and that for us is just a regular Monday or regular Tuesday. You know,
Yeah,
um, uh,
I, it's always interesting to note, especially well, I find when someone
yeah.
new comes in, and then it's just a big shock, and I'm like, oh, like you thought it was easy, or if it was a
Right.
particular way, and it's like, yeah, it's not good easy. So, I mean, I commend anyone who's in the field. And I'm not trying to say like media is the hardest thing in the world, but I'm just saying that it demands a lot from a given person. And as I said, you might clock out, but you never really leave work. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, bro. So we're moving on to one of my favorite segments of a Game Changers podcast. This is the quick hitters segment. It's rapid fire questions. So I typically tell my guests to answer in 30 seconds or less. Just so the first thing that comes to your mind, give the answer. Right?
Mhm.
All right. So
Okay,
let's
cool.
go.
No problem.
So first quick hitter question. What is your favorite type of music?
Favorite type of music? I would say either rap or pop. I don't listen to music too
Okay.
much, but sometimes, pop does get to me for
All
some
right.
reason. I don't know why, just the melodies and stuff like that. They just
Okay,
get to me.
great.
Yeah.
So wrap up. Interesting. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Best piece of advice I've received is, cliche, but it's to kind of, just be yourself. Um, because there's only one you, right? And even in media, there might be 20 reporters, but there's only one Kherim Nelson. There's only one Queen Senji. Your delivery style might be different from someone. Yes, you might be covering the same topics, but you may present it in a different way from, let's say, any other reporter. So I think the biggest thing for me is just be you, because you are the only you. That's one thing somebody can never take away from you, despite anything. So I think that was the greatest piece of advice I have
For
ever
sure, for
received.
sure. And final quick hitters question. Who would you like to see on Game Changers? I know you know a lot of people, Karim. So I mean, you can't give at least one name.
I mean, I would like to see a lot of people on the Game Changers platform. I just want to take the opportunity to tell you, it's a really good initiative. You're bringing a lot of eyes
For
to a lot
sure.
of young people who are doing good things. But for me, my number one person would always be my top G, Rhyme Augustine Joseph. I would love to see him on.
I knew that was coming.
I would,
I
I
knew
would,
that was coming.
I would love to see him on the podcast someday. I'd also say Udoka
Okay.
Constantine. She's a friend of mine, but she's a really strong individual, and I think she would be a good guest. I can think of Travis Lay. I saw Ajani
Yes.
mention
Yes.
Julian Alfred. I think Julian would be a
For
great
sure.
person as well. But off the top of my head, these are the people that kind of come to mind, and I think. But you're already getting a lot of good people, so I kind of run out of names, but because you already have so many good
We
people.
cannot repeat guests. I mean, there's no such thing as one time guests. They don't have to come at one time. Things change in
For
people's
sure, for
lives all
sure.
the time. So, they can feel free to come again if I had them on already.
But yeah, but for me, the number one
For
person there
sure,
is
for
Ryan,
sure.
for
I've
sure.
already reached out to Ryan, but I mean, Karim, how crazy this guy's schedule is.
Yeah, I need a story, story alone made me. Right now it
Yeah,
is, right
for
now
sure,
it is.
for sure. But for sure, we will really work on getting Ryan on, and hopefully, as he sees this episode, he'll remember that we have an appointment and he'll come through. All right, bro. So we're moving on to the back end of the interview. Final few questions. Um, you kind of tapped into it a little bit earlier on, but journalists often face criticism from external sources, whether that be political sources, whether that be just societal figures who are not satisfied with, I guess, the level of journalism, and that can really
Right.
hinder us from doing our work in the best way possible. For somebody who is a young professional who maybe just entered journalism or wants to become a journalist, what advice would you give to them to block out that noise and focus on storytelling?
Well, before I get into the answer, I will say the one thing as a journalist, you will experience. Everybody knows how to do your job better than you. Like every single person will tell you, but that's what journalists are supposed to do. But that's what you're. I mean, you're going to hear that a lot, and sometimes if you let it get to you, it can probably deter you or maybe make you feel like you're not good enough. And trust me, just follow your process. Just follow your process. Just try to become better at writing. Try to be better at gathering your intel, gathering your information. Make sure that your whatever you use in your reports is verifiable, is accurate. Um, just verify, go over your work, and just try to become better personally. If you try to become better personally, everything else will just kind of fall into place. I think that's just one of the conditions of the work environment is that people are going to criticize you. That is going to come no matter what. You'll do the best report ever, followed all the rules, all the standards, everything, and someone will
Yes.
still have a complaint. You will do a report you don't think is well, and people
Yes.
might love it. So it's just one of those things where you just kind of have to understand the environment you're in. Just don't let things deter you. But I will say it's not all
Yep.
criticism that's noise. There are actually some people you should actually listen to their advice or just decipher the important aspects of what they're telling you. Because if you have to kind of just listen to all the noise, you're going to get discouraged
Very
very,
quickly.
very quickly. And I can tell you, you can get discouraged. Um, like if you're a new person just coming in, you can get discouraged
Yep.
very, very quickly. And with media also coming into it, it's some jobs you have training, you have a learning curve,
No such thing.
this and
No
that.
such thing.
No, from day one, you have to adhere to all
Yep.
the standards, all the ethics, everything. And when you may make a harmless mistake, not because you're not competent, it's just that
Yeah.
you're not aware, and that may be your that you that might crush somebody. Because I mean, I had my incident when I just started out. I mean,
Yeah.
I won't mention it now, but I could have done um
Hmm.
something better. But at that time, I just wasn't aware. I just
Yeah.
thought, oh, that's just how it is, and then yeah, that's not how it is. So you just don't have to let those things kind of get to you, and just focus on just becoming a
For
better
sure.
reporter by by
For sure,
by
for
any
sure. It's
means.
important to stay level headed and speak to other journalists. I always say that people speak to other people in the field for advice, or when you're feeling a type of way. It pays to have friends in this industry, and it pays to have people who understand you. Because even if you have like your family or these type of friends, I mean, they might not really understand our work, so they might not really be able to
Yeah,
help you in that type of
yeah,
way, right? So but I think that having friends, having people in the industry itself who kind of understand where you're coming from, kind of understand what you're going through at the time, pays to help you know you in that regard. So for sure, I would agree with what you're saying, and
Yeah.
having people on the side who can help you.
And just to touch on that, I would say,
For sure.
build a strong network. You said it, Quinn, about having um, make friends and speak to people. That would be a big help. Especially for me when I came in, I remember guys like Rian, Isidore, Sheffield, and just some that these are just that just come to mind, but those who kind of helped me along the way. Tony Nicholas, lovely Anthony Joseph, as I mentioned, and you can gain a lot from them. So don't join the field and then try to isolate yourself. If you do that, it'll be very, very difficult for you. Try to mingle with people, try to get in touch with everyone, and it'll be beneficial. And I will say, although, don't let people take
Yes.
advantage of you because
Yeah.
it can happen. People will try to take advantage of your ignorance at the time because you don't know the framework, you don't know how things operate, and they might try to take advantage of you. But just also be
For
wary of
sure.
that as well.
For sure. Absolutely. Great advice, man. I agree with everything that you just said there, for sure. All right, bro. So we down to our last question. What is next for Kareem Nelson? If I would ask you that question, what would your answer be?
Well, the thing about Kherim, he never really knows what, and as you can tell by my
Yeah.
story of getting into media. But I think I have really kind of found my
Hmm.
operating space in terms of media and communications. Growing up, I always had a talent for speaking and writing, but I never thought of this as a
Yep.
potential career or
Same.
job or anything of that nature. So for me, it's not going to be more so me developing in this space, trying to become better. Right now, as I said, I am focused primarily with export solution, just making sure that I promote what we do at the agency to the best of my abilities. And that has also given me, provided me the opportunity to delve into some aspects that I was not able to be exposed to during news reporting, particularly like short productions, ads, infomercials, more the production end, and that has been truly
Mhm.
eye opening as well. And I look to increase my competencies in those aspects, aspects as well. So that's for me. Immediately, that's what I'm gonna be engaging in. You might call me 6 months later, and I might be doing something completely
Yeah.
different, but that's where I'm for now, and I'm looking to grow there. There's a lot of skills to be obtained, so
For
that's what I'm
sure,
trying to
for
do.
sure. I like that, and if it's one thing that, for example, the pandemic taught us is that we never know what really we want to do in the next 5 years. I know, like in
Never
typical
know.
job interviews, they ask you that question, and if it's the one thing that life has taught me is that you never really know. You can plan, you can have an idea of what you want to do, but you never really know. So I get what you say there, for sure. For
Yeah, you never really know. And I'll say is just you just have to be
Yep.
prepared for any and everything. Just try to make sure you're ready to position yourself, to make an impact. Because you never know, but what you can do is be ready for it. Be ready when an opportunity arises that you can take
For
advantage
sure.
of it.
Absolutely. All right, bro. So we have come to the end of what was an amazing conversation. I mean, it's always an amazing conversation when we speak, bro. I am very I am very happy to have this conversation with you and to say thank you for coming on. I want to also say thank you to you for what you have done in my career as well. You're younger than me, but I see you as a mentor in certain
Yeah,
senses, because you were in it before me. I understudied you when I just came in. So I want to thank you for what you have done for
uh,
me in this regard, and you've made me a better journalist, and you've been a good friend to me as well. So thank you very much for that.
yeah, I appreciate that. And I mean, getting to know you has always been a pleasure as well. I mean, I had heard the name Queen Service, but I never really tapped into who
Right.
you were as a person. But then I will say when you came, and I will give you your praise at this moment because when you came, like you were one of the persons I think I've seen that have just adapted to the work
Yeah.
environment the quickest. Like I mean, we
Mhm.
all have our shortcomings. I mean, different aspects of the media or journalism. But the way you were able to pick up the writing, pick up the aspects of finding the stories,
Yep.
which can be very difficult. People don't
Yes.
understand how hard it is to get a story. But we always have a conversation. But I just wanted to, give you your praise, and I hope I wish you the best in everything that you do. Even with this platform, Game Changers is doing really well. Your reports, you go a bit above and beyond. So just continue doing
Thank
what
you,
you're
man.
doing.
Thank you very much for that. All right, guys. So this is the end of yet another episode. And to thank you for coming on and watching, remember to like and subscribe. Remember to follow us on all our audio streaming platforms. We've been doing very well in many places in the Caribbean. Our friends in Trinidad, in St. Lucia. We want to do well in other places in the Caribbean as well. So remember to follow us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Remember to download the episodes as well so you can listen to it on the go. Thank you for coming on, and I will see you next time.